Good afternoon. I'm very honored and humbled to be in this room. All of the collective expertise, all of the years of experience, I feel like a novice. So what I'm going to chat with you about for a few minutes is about, one of the names I was going to give this was, the strangest partners often make the best bedfellows. So for 5 years, we have been working on an initiative called Thrive, Together Harnessing Resources, Giving Individuals Voice and Empowerment. I work in a small district north of Dallas, and we don't have a lot of resources. So Texas Health Resources, one of the hospitals, the foundation, put out a grant calling for proposals. But they said you have to have partners, and it has to be meaningful. And so often we have partners in name only, especially when it comes to grants. We kind of get them to send us a letter of support. We say we'll give you 20K out of our grant if we're awarded, and then we all go about business on our own way. Well, we have been fortunate enough to really form true collaboration with our partners and to move the needle on mental health and resiliency and food insecurity in our community. I want you to think for a minute of a time when you collaborated on a project with partners outside of your school district, and what adjective comes to mind when you think of that experience? Productive. Energizing. Synergy. Frustration sometimes? Okay. Some of the problems facing us, as I mentioned, and you'll get all of these slides, so I'm not just going to read them. Some of the problems facing us were food insecurity. An awful lot of our students did not know, and families, where their next meal was coming from. Also, we were encountering more and more students with severe mental health challenges. One of our team members talked about being one of the smallest towns in the county. We were so underserved and isolated when it came to behavioral health, food, and social services, because all the services were based in the larger cities. And that happens to a lot of us, that we feel isolated and we don't have a lot of the services. So Thrive had community partnerships, and what we were looking to do was increase resiliency of youth, address behavioral health needs, and increase food security. Our partners, Texas Health Resources, they're a foundation in Texas that puts out grants. The city of Sanger, the mayor was one of our major partners, and the city council. And then we had First Refuge Ministries, who helped set up a health clinic and food pantry in Sanger. We had First Baptist that gave us the house where the food pantry and health clinic were housed. And we had New Life Church that ended up in year 4 giving us 14 acres to have a farm. Now, I'm a city girl. I grew up in Dublin. I worked in the Bronx. I worked in DC. So I know nothing about farming. And when he said 14 acres, I was like, oh, great. Whoa. Okay. And center of it all were students and families. Our 3-prong approach, as we mentioned, was increasing resiliency, addressing behavioral health needs, and increasing food security. Our outcomes to date: we have over 3,500 families served at our food pantry and our Linda Tutt High School grocery store. And it's a funny story, but it was right past COVID, and we were sitting beforehand writing this grant, and it was a team representing all the partners. And we had 10,000 that was left in the pot to assign. And they said, we have to spend it, Anne, we have to spend it. We have to find something for that 10 grand. And I'm like, if we don't need it, let's not spend it. I don't want to do something just to do it. And then I threw out a question to kind of test their mettle. Because a lot of our partners were faith-based partners, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. That didn't come natural to me. So I said, we have the food pantry, we have the medical, we have the counseling. What about our youth who can't stand religion, who are not going to go into a building that has a cross in front? Why don't we set up a grocery at the alternative school? And we're going to call it a grocery store to give it dignity. Families will say, I'm going to the grocery store, versus, oh, off we go to the food pantry. And we did that, and because that was right after COVID, it got traction. I mean, that's what made the news. It was $10,000 of a $300,000 grant, and that's what people really captured. It's managed by students, run by students. They do inventory. They serve the community on a Tuesday night. I'll never forget Preston. He gave me permission to use his name. He's 19 now. And when he came to us, he was really, really struggling at the alternative school. A lot of trauma in his life. Lost his family, a lot of drug addiction. And it was tough. We had a few tough years, up on the roof throwing slates at us tough years. He would climb anything. Well, he became the manager of our grocery store, and he's now been on national TV 4 times. He's also the assistant manager of a local supermarket at 19. And one of the things he said to me, I will never forget, and he said it on national TV. He said, "Miss, that grocery store gave me a chance to do for people instead of being done to." He said, our whole life, we're being done to because we're those kids with those needs. The smile I see on a family that have kids in the car, that they know where their next meal is coming from, made me realize what's important in life. We served over 3,500 families. We're also screening all of our students, pre-K through 12, for mental health, behavioral, MTSS for behavior and mental health. We screen them twice annually. We did get a crisis counsellor, got intensive counselling. We have over 25,000 pounds of produce. The first time I saw a watermelon on a stalk, I about fell out. I don't know where I thought it came from, but it never occurred to me it'd be in the ground on a plant. And we're also using social and emotional wellness curriculum pre-K through 12. We are using ripple effects pre-K through 12, and we have had a lot of success with it. Most of my career has been working in the prison system, working in day schools, in specialized units for emotional behavioral disorder, and they always say, teach them social skills. Well, they have social skills, just not necessarily the right ones in the right place. And I always thought it was very insulting. Oh, we're going to put you in this class called social skills. And they would be very quick to say, forget you. So what we talked about was teen leadership, social emotional wellness, and we packaged it that way: problem solving, conflict resolution. And I said, I want a curriculum that's street smart. There's way too many curriculums that are just hokey. They look like they were written by old white men professors in closets that haven't been in a school in 100 years. And the kids don't like the role plays. They don't connect to them. They're not culturally, developmentally, they're not relevant in their lives. I wanted something street smart, something that had some gamified pieces in it, something where they could see vignettes of kids that looked like them and were encountering some of the same challenges that they were encountering. And I found it in Ripple Effects. We've had a lot of success with it. Overall, we had a 17% improvement in resiliency over the school year, and we had an 11% improvement in self-efficacy. The power of the partnerships, collaborative problem solving, like some of you mentioned, there's power in it. Space and access. Faith-based communities have houses and have land. And they were able to give us, for $1 a year, we got the house that houses the medical and the food pantry. And then we got the farm. Experience and proven record. One of the things, when I was looking for a partner on who would do the food pantry, I was kind of cautious because I didn't want it to be where you pull up for food and they kind of hold the food out here and make you pray and read the Bible here, and you have to do that to get the food. And I realize now that was an unconscious, implicit bias on my part, because of how I was raised, and everything was the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church, the Catholic Church, and it was shoved down your throat to the point you ran. So I went and did a little recon mission. I went to 8 food ministries in our area, in Denton, the biggest city near us, and I went to get food. And I found the one that didn't make me pray. And that's who we partnered with. Now, they do say, after you get the food, is there anything you would like us to pray for? Would you like to pray with us? But they give you the food first, they load your car, And then if you say, no, I'm good, which is what I'd said, they'd say, well, God bless and be safe. So that's how we check that out. We want sustainability and longevity, folks. Too often with grants, we just get the money and do it for 2 years and then it goes away. From day one, whenever I write a grant, whenever I work on a grant, we're looking for scalability, sustainability, and longevity. Less fragmentation of programming. You have lots of agencies based in the community doing the same work over here, over here, over here. How much more powerful when we can join them together. And we moved the needle on those 2 areas. The challenges, we wanted them to be meaningful partners, not just partners in name. We wanted to avoid being silos and fragmented in our approach. Potential conflict of interests. We had to put that out on the table at the beginning. As I mentioned, a lot of our partners were faith-based partners, and that scared me at first. But in our smaller communities and in certain states, that's where you're going to get some of your momentum. And we were very clear from the beginning, without insulting anybody's beliefs or anybody's mission or anybody's career, that it was not going to be about proselytizing. It was going to be about serving the community. On the other hand, we were also clear that the school would respect the religious beliefs and the faith-based community, because it goes both ways. We were ensuring each partner's mission and voice were heard and honored. How we addressed the challenges: initial research, careful selection. That was my recon mission. Potential conflicts of interest were addressed head-on from the planning stage, head-on. We identified expectations and agreements from the beginning. We had an advisory group that included representatives of all of our different partners. And we had regular scheduled ongoing dialogue between partners. There were bumps in the road, absolutely. And we would go to the table and we would agree to disagree, and we'd problem solve and try to figure it out. Texas Health Resources provided the seed funding, and they also did an external evaluation. So those numbers I put up there were not numbers that I came up with or any partner came up with. That was an external evaluation through UT Medical Center. So it's robust. They also provided a grant manager, and you know, a lot of times grant managers will say, I'm here for you, just call me. And you're like, yeah. This lady truly was our partner. It was my first experience with a foundation, because I've done state and federal, and it was phenomenal. She truly was a partner. At the school, they gave space for the Linda Tuck grocery store. We also set up chill zones and got to move rooms. That's a whole other story. They gave dedicated time for resilience curriculum. We had a crisis counselor. They agreed to do the behavioral health screening, and they agreed that we could have trauma-informed training for staff. First Refuge had the food pantry, the medical clinic, the council clinic, and volunteers. First Baptist gave us the building and volunteers, and we also used their activity center. It's huge. For back-to-school resource fair. That thing's grown a life of its own. It's on in a few weeks. And for distributing Christmas toys, etc. New Life gave us, there's our community strong farm, and volunteers at the farm. The mayor of Sanger participated on the advisory team. Probably one of the proudest moments for our group was when the city council passed an ordinance 2 years ago and dedicated July 16th annually as Youth Resilience Day in Sanger. Now we have to do something for it, but it was great. I want you to think for a minute. You have a piece of paper on your table, and I want you to think for a minute about some of your students' and families' greatest needs, whether they be, basic needs like food, medical, dental, social service, counseling. And who are some potential partners, if you start to think out of the box? The ones you think, I could never partner with them, because those are the ones who made the difference for us because of the structure and framework that we put in it. So, number one, identify gaps based on needs. Nobody has to write an essay. We should ask ChatGPT, see how they do. Brainstorm potential partners. And then plan your outreach. Set a concrete goal and a timeline. Who are you going to reach out to after this conference to try to begin the journey of meeting some of the identified needs in your community? Thank you.